the start of the scene, it's hot. And I know that when it's summer and I don't have air conditioning and it's hot and humid, and I get all sweaty and like it's just dripping down everywhere, I get kind of cranky. And Benvolio is saying we should get out of this square because if anyone sees us fighting, then we get in big trouble and we end up getting killed for it. So he's trying to warn Mercutio to get out because he knows that the other family's out kind of walking around too. Mercutio makes fun of him. And even though Benvolio always wants to make peace and he's trying to get everyone to settle down all the time, Mercutio says, you're one of those guys that's like you walk into the bar and you put your sword down, which is what I do when I walk into a bar. They don't like it when you bring your sword in with you, so that's why I hide it. Anyway, he said you put your sword down at the bar before your first glass of beer and you say, please God, please don't let me have to stab anyone in the face with this big pointy sword that I carry around with me. And then, after the second cup of beer, you take your sword and you're getting ready to stab someone in the face, like that. Benvolio doesn't believe it. And he says, am I really like that? And Mercutio says, yeah, you're one of those people you get cranky and you get grouchy and then you want to fight everybody. Then Mercutio goes through this long list of things, and I'm not going to talk about all of it because you'd get bored. But all these things that Benvolio would get in a fight over. You know, you'd get in a fight if, you know, some guy with a beard came up and he looked at my beard and he's like, you have one more hair in that beard than I have in mine. I'm going to stab you. And he said you could be walking down the street and see a dude like cracking some nuts, which happens out in the streets, and you get in a fight with him because you have hazel eyes, like a hazelnut. You'd also get into a fight with a dude because you were walking through the street and then someone coughed and that woke your dog up. And I don't know why you would be walking with your dog who was asleep unless it was really little and you just like to carry it around and pet it. And another thing you get in a fight for is you get in a fight before Easter because someone's wearing the wrong clothes. And I know that there's nothing that makes me angrier than seeing someone wearing inappropriate Easter clothing. And nothing makes me want to stab him in the face more than that. And so Benvolio then says, you should teach me how to stay calm and not get into a fight. At this point, Tybalt, and the last time we saw Tybalt, he was pretty angry at that party because his uncle wouldn't let him stab Romeo in the face. Tybalt and some of his friends come walking up, and Benvolio says, by my heel, here come by my head, here come the Capulets. Mercutio doesn't care at all. He says, I don't care at all. Tybalt says, I just want to talk to one of you. And really, he's just looking for Romeo, and he knows that these are a couple of Romeo's buddies, but that's who he's looking for. Mercutio was kind of a jerk. He likes to start fights, and he says, just one word? Why don't you make that something else? Make it a blow. Okay, so he wants a blow and like fighting. So he said, and Tybalt said, yeah, I'll do that. You can give me some occasion. Basically, he's saying, if you want to fight, I'm willing to fight. And Mercutio then says, can't you take some occasion? Can't you just start a fight without having to have it started for you? Tybalt, in saying you consortist with Romeo, what he's meaning is you hang out with Romeo a lot. Mercutio kind of turns that into a play on words and says consortist, like you're hanging out and playing music with Romeo. You're in a band with Romeo. And so Mercutio then says, does that make us minstrels, like the little guys with the lip? You know, they walk around with the little lute and sing songs and like skip places. Yeah. So then he says, here's my fiddlestick, which would be to play his fiddle with, but it's actually his sword. Benvolio is trying to calm everybody down. And he says, look, if you're going to fight, we got to at least get out of the way and get out of the sight of other people. Because the problem is, you know, if anyone sees us, and everyone is going to see us if we fight here, then we get killed. Mercutio then says, look, people were made to look. I don't have any problem being out in front of people. At this point, Tybalt sees Romeo, and he's like, all right, I don't have any problem with you guys. This is the one I'm looking for. And Tybalt's been angry since that party, when his uncle wouldn't let him stab the guy. Tybalt says, the love I have for thee can afford no better term than this. You're a villain. Okay, so this is more of that love-hate stuff coming together. Okay, he clearly doesn't love Romeo. And so when he says the love I have for you, Basically, he means I have no love for you. And so he says, you're a villain. We're now going to make this old-timey, because I've got a feeling you're getting bored with this. I just went back and back and back, and now I'm in ye oldie times. Anyway, Tybalt says, look, the reason that I have to love you makes me forgive you for what you just said to me. Okay, and the reason he has to love him is because now he's related to him. He can't tell Tybalt that, because no one knows about this marriage. But he doesn't want to kill his cousin, who is now cousin-in-law, I guess. But and so he says, you don't really know me, and until you do, I'm just going to leave. I'll talk to you later. So Tybalt views this as Romeo just kind of backing down from the fight and trying to make him look bad. So Romeo just kind of turns and walks away, and Tybalt takes that as a major insult and gets really angry. And he says, turn and draw. He's trying to get him to fight. Romeo said, look, I haven't done anything to you, okay? And until you know the reason for my love, why I do love you, and again, Tybalt's kind of taking that as an insult. He's kind of taking like, he's messing with him, and there's enough people around, you know, and when you think about fights in school, when everyone goes, ooh, which is one of my absolute least favorite noises on the planet. Anyway, when you hear that, if the person walks away, the person trying to start the fight can view that as insulting. And so Romeo is not meaning it as an insult. He's actually literally trying to back down and get away from this fight, but Tybalt doesn't view it that way. Okay, so he says, I value your name as much as I value my own. Tybalt can't get it, because until Tybalt understands that he's married to his cousin, then there's no way that Tybalt could possibly get that. Now, Mercutio, once Romeo's saying that, Mercutio doesn't know they're married either. Okay, so Mercutio views this as Romeo being a wuss and backing down from a fight that he's supposed to fight. Tybalt's there saying insulting things to him in front of a big group of people, and he thinks his friend Romeo's being a wuss. And so Mercutio wants to fight Tybalt for Romeo. He basically wants to defend his friend, you know, and that's something that happens in high school a lot too. He calls Tybalt a rat catcher because Tybalt's got the nickname the Prince of Cats. Okay, so he's kind of making fun of him, and he says, and so he kind of comes up to him and he says, will you walk? Do you want to fight with me? And then he says, you know, he goes through all this stuff, and he says, I'm going to take, basically he's kind of playing on the fact that he's cat, so he's going to say, I'm going to take all of your 9 lives. I'm going to stab one, and then I'll dry beat the rest. Thrash the rest out of you. Tybalt says, alright, I'm down. Because Tybalt really wants to fight anyone at any time. It's one of his favorite things to do, is just to fight all the time. Romeo feels really badly about this. Okay, because he feels like he doesn't want either of these people to get hurt, particularly when his buddy is the one who is trying to protect him from his fight. Okay, so what happened was, we've got Mercutio, because he is a rabbit with a tag on his ear. That was the fashion back in the times. And we got Tybalt, who is a godchild bear that I found on the floor. And they're like, I hate you, I'm going to stab you. And they start fighting in their swords. But when you watch the video, when the fight is going on, it starts off, they're having fun with it. They're joking around, they're kind of giving each other a hard time, it's playful, but then it's one of those things where, and sometimes this happens with friends, we'll put these two down for a moment, but where you start off kind of play fighting, and everyone kind of enjoys it, and then all of a sudden something happens and it goes a little bit too far, and then someone ends up getting really angry, and then the fight turns into more serious. My dog is trying to jump up into my lap. Anyway, all of a sudden it gets more serious. This is Josie. She won't speak to you. I would ask her to say hi, but she only speaks off camera. It's in her contract. Anyway, he says, so these two are fighting, and Romeo, this is where I need my skin tail to come up over the top of my shoulder and to hold the third. Here's Romeo, who is a raccoon. Romeo comes in between them while they're fighting. He's like, hey, stop! And they're like, no, we won't stop. And he's like, hey, stop, please stop! And then, who's who? This is Mercutio, and this is Tybalt. Tybalt can't see Mercutio very well, because Romeo is right in the middle. And what happens is he's got his sword, and he accidentally stabs Mercutio under Romeo's paw. Like, This is kind of the worst explanation I've given for this. But usually I have you guys up in front of the class to do it. Stabs him under Romeo's paw. Okay, so then Tybalt goes, oh no, and he runs away. Romeo doesn't get what happened because he didn't see it. Okay, and he knows how much of a joker Mercutio usually is. And so when Mercutio kind of pulls away and is acting like he's hurt, Romeo thinks he's just screwing around and that he's trying to get a laugh. And they kind of make fun of him for it. But really what happened is Romeo, by trying to stop the fight, by trying to stop the hate, because he loves both of these people, made the fight much, much worse. Because now his friend got stabbed trying to defend his honor. And so this love-hate stuff kind of keeps coming full circle. Okay, so now Romeo's going to feel the need to defend his honor and the honor of his friend who ended up getting stabbed trying to protect him. I don't know about you, but if I just got married to someone earlier that day, and then all of a sudden the person I got married to, if my wife Amy came after my cousin with a big sword, that's not the best way to start a happy marriage. Mercutio is still joking around at this point, and he says, a plague on both your houses. So if you say that, you would think that Mercutio would just be angry at Tybalt, because he's the one that stabbed him. But he's also angry at Romeo, because if these two families hadn't been fighting, he'd still be fine right now. So he says, a plague on both your houses. I wish a sickness would go through and wipe out everyone in both of your families. Okay? But at this point, people still don't know what's wrong with him. Benvolio says, are you hurt? And Mercutio says, yeah, it's a scratch. It's a scratch. And it is a scratch, but it's a big scratch because it's a big gaping stab sword wound. And he says, go fetch a surgeon. Go get me a doctor, someone to help me out. Romeo says, easy, easy. It can't hurt that bad. And Mercutio, because he's good with words, said, yeah, it doesn't hurt that much, but it's enough. It'll get the job done. And it will, because he's dying right now. He says, ask for me tomorrow, you'll find me a grave man. Now, grave is another one of those kind of double word play type things, where grave could be, I'm very serious. You'll find me serious because I got a cut. Otherwise, the other interpretation of that is, you'll find me a grave man, you'll find me in my grave, deed. And so he says, why did you come between us? I was hurt under your arm. Okay, so Romeo he was trying to do the best and trying to stop the fight, but it ended up causing major problems. And so when we think back to the beginning of the play and think back to the reasons and the things that can cause this, all the issues that happen in the play and all the stuff that happens between Romeo and Juliet, fate is a big one. When Romeo talked about being the captain of a ship, and we talked about fate being like the ocean, no matter how good a captain of a ship you are, and no matter how good your ship is, sometimes things that can happen that can blow you off course. Big waves can come, storms can come up, and you can get wrecked, no matter how good a captain you are.